Welcome in. Welcome in. I put my hands up like this. If you notice, me and Charles did it. It's something we did in the group we were in before. I'm trying to, there you go, align it, right? The elbows together, like the thumbs to the fingers, like elbows. Because when you look at the word man, it comes from the word hand. That's why we talk about manifesting, is through man, manifesting, right? And it comes from the word hand. So we would do this when we get off, we'd all go like that together. That's why me and him do it. You notice when he's been on, it's something that we would do in a group. It was like taking our connective oath of hands together, right? Putting them on like at the screen towards each other. And just almost just like our admittance that we're one together. We're all one together. We all got 5 fingers on 2 hands, 5 fingers on 2 feet, a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, which makes us from Venus. You go, what? Yes, Venus is the connection of the phi or 5, the 5 aspect, 5-star being the pentagram. Oh, it's not evil. No, it doesn't have to be, because there's a good and it's how you use it. Like I said, there's an aspect of that. And actually, did you know that Lucifer actually is Venus in a longer story before we got the last so many hundred years with Venus, with Lucifer, and Lucifer being a male, because actually Venus, it was a female. Like if you look at the old song, Venus was about the man, it was about the female. So, and freedom. So just a little titty bit, I didn't mean to say titty bit, little bitty that I give you, just a little fresh revelation. If you don't know, if you know, that's cool, because you have some knowledge, you got some gnosis going on. So yeah, so they made Lucifer into what we see today. So I have an interesting video, a few videos ago. I believe it came out on the, let me see, maybe the 16th. It came out the 16th of August. And it was about the paradigm blindness. I want to do this video because I want you guys just to be up on it. This goes with the paradigm blindness, what can come of having too much paradigm blindness for too long and never learning to integrate or never waking up. And all through the manipulation of programming and stuff, this comes from it. Yeah. I had met somebody recently that had shared a story, and I've heard these stories before in the past, the people who are actually engaged as an MLK Ultra, going through it physically, going through what they went through physically with it. I've heard people discuss this, and I've heard people talk about their experiences, and it was very similar to what I had heard people talk about it that kind of got through it and went through it in their stories. And this person really was just upfront and honest, and really just was able to share their heart. And then after kind of being around them and talking to them, I realized they had come through that, but they were getting awakened, and they had some awakening and revelation knowledge. But what would come back to them and what it would try to spar was that feeling or that energy, or almost like somebody who's trying to pick on them, or in that energy trying to almost like harass and stuff. Very sad, but the reality of people going through this, and this is, it kind of just, when you look at that aspect of that, we're all getting it from the media. Not in the exact, they're in the room with us, but the media has just cranked it up to, a lot. That's why I stick in your power. Don't let fear get a hold. Keep in your power. Keep in your power. Don't go into certain areas that lowers you. Keep raising you. Your power's in the raising of self. All right. Let's get into it. So we talked about that the other day on the 16th, about the blindness that can come from being paradigm blindness, the effects of programming, the effects of belief systems, and the effects of the programming, which is connected to indoctrination. They go hand in hand, and the program, and the belief systems a lot going hand in hand with it, and belief systems can be totally even religious. I mean, as we know, belief systems have a lot of religious, for a lot of people coming through religious backgrounds, their belief systems can definitely hinder their growth. And I've seen it, and I know people who are actually really close to me and family members who I've seen what's happened with them through that aspect of it. And it's, you got to feel for them, but you also got to know you have your walk, and you don't. And this is the thing, sometimes we want to save people, and it's really not our job to save them. It's our job. If your job's to assist people, but you can't make anybody do anything they're not willing to do themselves. You can give the best advice. Believe me, I did it. Being a counselor, working in mental health, even on that level, and it wasn't taken when it was the best of life, and it was asked for. And you just kind of keep repeating yourself over with this advice. But this is even in the spiritual realm. We cannot save anybody. We can't make anybody wake up. We can assist when it's meant to be, and it's been arranged that way, and it's organized that way. And there's many of us who are definitely cosmic soul connections with other beings in your life. Some are karmic relationships, and some are soulmates, and some are twin flames in different levels. But what we're talking about here is something that can happen, and let's talk about it. And we're really gonna definitely talk about it and share. Did I not do something wrong? Let me see. Did I not go in there and share? Oh, okay, I'll see what I did wrong. Okay. So if you don't already see it and you don't see it, right, we're going to talk about Stockholm. This aspect can be active when you are not getting awakened and you're going through these processes of programming and paradigm blindness. You're just not budging after life after life after life, and there's a decrease of essence. We even seen it even in the computer in that part. There's a decreasing, not an increasing, and this even goes for the soul loss, right? You're not budging. You're living multiple lifetimes, and you start living these multiple lifetimes of hundreds of years, if not more, and you're not budging. You're staying the same. You're not increasing at all. You're not waking up. And the aspect of this can lead you, as many people have went through the programming, definitely through the programming, and we're going to talk about this very, very thing that many of you know about, Stockholm. City in Sweden, a place around the mid-13th century from fishing village. The second element in the name is holm, an island. See holm. The first is either stock bay or stock stake pole, related to Stockholmer. Stockholm syndrome, from 1978 psychologist term, name derives from August 23rd, 1973, a violent armed robbery of a Servergus credit bank in Stockholm. 4 bank employees were held hostage in a vault for more than 5 days. During that time, the hostage developed a dramatic attachment to the abuser and a fear of would-be rescuers that they would later not explain. They could not later explain. That's heavy. So they were locked in a vault for 5 days. And they had an attachment to the perpetrator, the abusers, and a fear of the rescuer, which really is within us both, can be. And they could not explain why. They couldn't give you an explanation why they felt this way, why they had this attachment to them, why they would, the 5 days in that situation did something to them to actually, and it could be that, you're almost begging almost wanting, it's almost like a woman that's, or anybody that's been a abusive relationship tries to do everything perfect so she doesn't get, so the night's good and there's no abuse. And then when the abuser abuses again, they will end up not blaming the abuser, but they'll do the opposite. They'll blame themselves and saying they caused it because they just didn't clean the kitchen right, or whatever case of an excuse may be. They will take full responsibility that it was their fault for being abused by the abuser. Similar to that. The syndrome, Latin word syndrome, occurrence, symptoms, concourse of people, place where several roads meet literally or running together. Heavy, okay. Asperger's syndrome, we're not going there. We're going to go over to our Google and we're going to read it, and then we're going to look at some images and see what we have here. Symptoms and behaviors. Victims of formal definition of Stockholm Syndrome develop positive feelings towards their captors and sympathy for their causes and goals, and negative feelings towards the police or authorities. The symptoms often follow escaped victims back into their previous ordinary life, right? They often follow escaped victims back into their life. That's very powerful. This is such a mind shift that you're really feeling connected towards and sympathy. Feel bad for them. Might even blame yourself if they were to get arrested, that it was your fault they got arrested. That's how sympathetic, but this isn't a normal empathy or sympathy or a normal feeling. There's something that through this programming, through this situation, is firing off something in their mind that is not operating right, and they'll blame themselves. They'll blame the somebody else, the good guys, the rescuers, as it said, and not take responsibility. And why am I bringing this up? Because this can actually be the follow-up to blindness, paradigm blindness. If you don't ever get out of paradigm blindness and it just continues and continues, this would be prime for Stockholm Syndrome, if not already having aspects of this stuff in somebody's life. It's very sad, but it's very real. I don't know what kind of therapy or what kind of, there's definitely some spiritual work you could do, but that person would have to be inclined to be open, because if they're not open, it's not going to work. If they're not going to take responsibility and reversed, it's kind of like the mind got reversed into this feed loop of there. And I could see in certain situations is because of the abuse, and you want it to stop. They were in there with them 5 days where it came from, that they served them and did everything they said. And then it was almost like, because of this, it's almost like like I said, the woman or a person who will blame the abusive themselves for their husband hitting them, or even, I guess it could be the other way around for men or women, for the way they treat them. They could actually blame themselves for they caused the good beating, slap around or punch around or whatever, which that would occur, or whatever would occur, that they deserved it because they did it. They had sympathy for the abuser. Let's read up here what this is. Stockholm Syndrome is a proposed condition or theory that tries to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with their captors. It is supposed to result from rather specific sets of namely the power imbalances contained in the hostage taking, kidnapping, abusive relationships. Yeah, and I mentioned that. And that's what I was going to say. It's almost like it was infused into the really low negative realm of the connection to them. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure this out mentally, emotionally, because there's some mental, emotionally, and stuff here with this. It's not funny. It's really sad, but it's a reality that it's happened. Let's go down here. See if there's anything else. Let's see the symptoms. Feeling closely bonded or attached to the captor or abuser. Regressing to a childlike state of dependence. Selective memory or positive kind of acts of captor abuse. Very, everything in here that I'm going to read is a very low frequency, especially when I start seeing some of this, when I look at it. The childlike state of dependency, right? The attachment and bonding even of the abuser captor. Selected memory or positive acts towards their abuser. So it's not even holding an anger towards your abuser, which sometimes people will hold as children, abused children, will have an anger, especially boys will have this anger, right? With a parent or whomever that's, triggered them through abuses. Here's the one: denial, minimization, excuses made for the abuse of the treatment, feeling emotionally disconnected, numb, or detached. When I see these last two, this is a very low frequency and vibration of losing self. A lot of soul loss through here, this process too, I see. Oh my gosh, there is soul retrieval in this. There is hope, but this is very, very low. I wouldn't understand why and try to understand why, but obviously it happens. It's very, when I look at this, it does such a whole mind essence to them, effed up really, that the numb, detached, I know people have went through that, feeling disconnected, that happens even for people through processes in the past that they go through later. Even you can feel certain aspects of these even in your raising of your consciousness. But this whole thing of being so codependent and regressing like a childlike state of dependence, almost having such an attachment to your abuser. And I guess that's why you would see many women, or it could be men too, staying in long-term relationships, but not really in staying in them, especially when because besides there's emotional, mental, and other abuses. And I've heard people make the mistake, well, it was my fault. I spilled the food. I dropped and broke the glass. And these kind of excuses for that is very, very sad, but I've heard of them and I've heard people make them in the past. Let's look at this. And I just wanted to really, these feelings typically happen because of emotional, highly charged situations. So it's very much fight or flight. This occurs during hostage situation or abuse cycle. So I could see something I just seen when I seen this, a very charge is a very emotional, charging, energetic field. So by them not going to a certain way, and almost like I could see that there's something in that energetic transference with this person gets their energetic fields cross into an almost connectivity with them, because these cycles come and it's almost like I'm begging them, or because I did this, it doesn't happen. So they're really a hero because they didn't do that to me today. They didn't treat me bad today. Well, they only treat me bad. But there's an infusion of the emotional body together that infuses this together and almost brings a totally negative connection or integration. I'm decoding this and seeing this in a whole different way. Just something I don't fully get, but there's a part of this when I read the highly emotional charged situation occurs because of the charge of these energies. Almost like if somebody gets angry, they can feel the charge of the fire going up. And in certain ways, after it's depleted, almost like even with sex. Think about, there's this old story that says, Everybody feels like they lost something after sex. And don't fake the funk and say, oh, where did you get that? No. Just be mature about that. It feels like there's a loss, right? Because you're extracting these life force within you that you can almost feel like wasn't always cut out to be. But the build and the process of it, of course, was. But after the fact, in this charging and this infusing, and then it repeated cycles, almost there's a high in it, but it really just destructive lows in the aftermath of what it produces, which, I even use the sex relationship. It's like that. Just trying to figure this out. And then besides that, the abuse cycle, but the hostage, being held hostage, and then not killing you maybe, especially when it's high strung, when you're looking at days or years, if it's abuse cycles, is actually you think they're saving you by not the days they don't, maybe inflict pain. And then when they do, you always blame yourself, especially on the abuse side. But I'm trying to get the hostage side, which I don't fully that, but it makes sense. There's something that makes sense to me that I'm going to get in a higher way. Let's look at the feeling. They feel affinity toward their captor and support and that affinity is a very powerful connection, because affinity is something that connects to you to have a connection of oneness with affinity. I'll break down the word. In fact, let's look at the word affinity real quick. Let's look at this word, see if it pops up on the etymology. Because that is powerful. An affinity. I know this affinity is a powerful word of meaning. Yeah, it's a oneness. Look at affinity. This is going to be a word of the day for me. I was going to do this word because it's definitely used a lot in my studying in Hermeticism, and also esoteric too, but actually really a lot in alchemy. A relation by marriage. So affinity is not infinity. It's a difference. We'll stop there. So there's a one. It's almost like I said earlier. It's not almost a trans. When I was using the words the like transmutation, and what's the other word I always use with the trans? I had a word of the day the other day with it, but we're muting, or we're trans. But anyways, it's the same. It's a marriage is bringing two opposites into one. This is the abused and the abused and the abuser becoming one, like a marriage. Let's look down a little bit more. Marriage, God, it is adjoining, ascendant, also kin by marriage. Gosh darn, it's really there. And that's what I was thinking it was. Let me go ahead and we'll go out of this. I'm going to go on that word because that word is one of the words I was going to do word of the day, and then when it popped up on that, I was like, man. There's another thing. You're right. I wanted to look at some other stuff that was on that line. We'll do it another time. I'll bring out the word affinity completely and tie it into how actually affinity is connected to us in our purpose, but I'll bring it out in that way. But to have God, the mindset is like they're married to him in a relationship, and they have an affinity for them. They have a oneness for them. They feel connected to the abuser and make all kinds of excuses for him. Wow. This what can happen when actually the next level of what this was about how this whole situation dealing with Stockholm syndrome can be related to a paradigm blindness, and then the Stockholm syndrome connected to the paradigm blindness is when the blindness keeps, then you'll make excuse, because the reason you're blind is your belief system. And guess what? A lot of that was given to you through the matrix. It just was, because you have a belief systems aren't necessarily true. You can believe anything. You can believe anything. Doesn't make it true. Knowing is truth. And remember, it's only half truths. And I'll get on that later when I'm saying that. This will go into the Hermetic principles when I will get on that soon. You guys have a great day. This is really blowing my mind. This part really, when I went into that and seen that, I'm like, wow, that's heavy. It's really sad. Definitely, if somebody was to get it, having that. God, but they feel unity and have an affinity for them, which is like a marriage, a oneness, a kinness, kindness, they're connected to them. Y'all, just have a great day. I love y'all. Comment, like, share. Please comment. Anybody else you know is open and wants more, share this video with them. Bring them into this family if they're open for it. And I'll be honest, I'm not looking for dogmatic people coming to start problems here, because they'll get blocked right away, because we're not religion, and we're not trying to be. And I'm not trying to teach somebody who has not been trying to be or going through initiation process or matching frequency to revelation. If there's dogma, which is belief system, frequency doesn't match this frequency. They can't. The initiation hasn't even, they don't even know what it is. They think it's just believe. So you guys have a great day. Love and appreciate all you guys who've made yourself really connected. And I appreciate it. You guys have that blessed. That's another thing we'll get on is some more. I was going to do affinity. I'm thinking I may still do affinity and tie it into what I was going to tie it in, but that just really hit me. Whoa. But anyways, but negative and positive, everything. Right? You guys have a great day.